Hi everyone, welcome to the A Life of Education podcast. So today we're here with Tricia Evans. Thank you so much for coming.
Okay, great. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, maybe you can introduce yourself and what you do and what your business is about.
Yeah, sure. I'm a business coach and I've been in Dubai nearly 25 years. And so first coach in the region, and about 60% of all the work I do is working with small business owners and entrepreneurs. And it's all about helping to get their business to the next level. Or occasionally planning an exit strategy, planning how to sell it for a shed load of money. So that's what I do.
That's cool. That's cool. And you've obviously been here a really long time. So you've seen lots of businesses in different facets of their development. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people. I work a lot with women as well. About 60% of the women I work with are women, and often in this part of the world, jobs just they're not the same sometimes as home, and people are often looking for alternatives, and especially millennials, younger people or whatever. The traditional 9-to-5 thing, it's just old hat. You know, they want to do their own thing, but they want it to be successful. And I just find that of all the entrepreneurs or freelancers I work with, I don't think many of them make money. And I think that's the problem. You can have a passion, you can have something you want to do, but it's really important to figure out, you know, what are you trying to do with this? Where do you want to take it? And how do you actually turn it into something that actually gives you a decent income?
Yeah, that's really important too.
Yeah, no, it is.
So what would a typical session with you look like if somebody was if you sit down now? Like, where would you begin with somebody trying to coach them? Is it a personal business perspective, or is it business like organization?
Oh, it's everything. Basically, I get them to tell me your story. You know, what's your background? Where do you come from? Why are you actually thinking about this? What a really, really, really important aspect of what I see as being successful is really people who understand their own style and personality. I work an awful lot with people who've gone into partnership with somebody else, and they go into partnership because they're mates, or they do the same thing, or they think it's a good idea, and they don't think it through, and it ends up a disaster a few years down the line. Not only are they not friends, but they fight, and what they don't do is think, what are they good at? What do they want from the business? And I think most people just do not realise it's not a hobby, it's a business, and there's a totally different mindset. If it doesn't matter if you're a freelancer, you run a business, or scale it up. If you start from the beginning and think, what do I need from this? Where is this a business? Am I just playing around, or is this serious? Where's it going? Start with the end in mind, and then have those conversations with potential partners or whatever. Then it really puts things in context and makes it work. My tagline is be successful on purpose. And that's not just words, it's not just guessing. It's don't guess, don't faff around. Don't just do stuff because it seems like a good idea. It's like stop, think, focus. And I think that's what sessions with me would do. Stop and figure this out. Who are you? What makes you tick? What are you great at? What do you suck at? Who do you work best with? What's in it? My own background is actually the corporate world in sales and marketing. But I realised fairly early on that was not my thing, and I've always wanted to do my own stuff. And when I came to Dubai, it was a great chance to set up as a coach. But I've been a single mum. Became a single mum when my daughter was 5 months old, which was a hell of a shock. I'm a huge planner. I didn't plan that one. But it does mean that, in my case, for example, I couldn't play around. Self-financing single mum, you have to figure it out. And this is a business. And
you have to get it right too.
You've got to get it right.
You've got other people depending on you too. So
yeah, totally. Just simple things. My costs to cover costs and school fees and everything else were 40,000 dirhams a month. So you don't mess around. You can't just fiddle around and do a little bit of work if you feel like. And I think I see that, and especially in the fitness world as well. People who are really, really fit, or real fitness professionals in their own right. And that's great, but it's not enough. Because it's not about you if you're running a business. It's never about you. It's what you enable your clients to do.
Yeah, so I think one of the reasons why we wanted to bring you on today is because there are so many fitness professionals who really want to aspire to be entrepreneurs and want to aspire to either open their own facilities or to expand in some kind of way. So what advice would you have for them if they're thinking about moving into being a PT to moving into starting their own business in the fitness industry?
Well, there's a few real key things, and it really is about stop and get this stuff and down on paper as well. what is the dream? What's the plan? What are you trying to do? What's the ultimate goal? Really figure out who you are. And that's where personality profiles are brilliant. They're really, really good.
Yeah, we've done these together.
Yeah, we have. And, but it really makes a difference. And it's not right or wrong. I mean, we're all amazing at some things and we're all pretty rubbish at others. And if you're working, say if Keith and I were working together and he's great at A and I'm great at B, we can either fight about that, me say, oh, you're rubbish because you're not good at what I'm good at. Or you can say, actually, you're great at A, I'm great at B, let's trade. Let's do this together. And the power of that is amazing. So first of all, there's that thinking, but probably the single biggest thing, and this goes for anyone, fitness professionals, coaches, freelancers, you've got to get your niche right. If in 25 years, I was the first coach in the Middle East, and now there are thousands of coaches. Same with personal trainers. There are thousands in the market.
Yeah. I remember a long time, 10 years ago, there was 5 yoga teachers in this region. Now there's so many. It's crazy. Yeah. So you're right. You have to get it right.
You do. And I mean, some of the people in the market will be amazing. They'll be really, really good. And some of them, quite frankly, will be pretty rubbish, and then there's everything in between. And if you find your niche, now your niche is your target audience. So, for example, I'm working with a few personal trainers at the moment, really getting them to figure out what is it they're good at. And this starts from where they come from. And I mean, for example, with Keith, you've got such an amazing background in getting people up and moving and fit and really understanding the anatomy and all the rest of it. Now, most personal trainers don't have that, or they might have a couple of weekend courses that they've done on that. But you've got to work out where you're really, really credible, where you really know your stuff. So, for example, a niche would be a very specific target audience. So I'll just pick a few examples personal trainers done recently. I've got a niece who's a personal trainer in UK. She focuses on women who are pregnant.
Is this the niece that I met?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's gone on. And
she is doing amazing.
Yeah,
now.
Great.
She's done amazing. Since she met you, she's run 2 marathons, set up as a personal trainer.
Excellent.
She is, really, really, you really inspired her.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's incredible. And she's really focusing, lives in Bath in the UK, really focusing on women who are pregnant, who want to stay fit and want to stay healthy. So her target market is, it's women. It's also women who are a bit concerned about going to a gym, because, they haven't got the old, lithe body and all the rest of it. But most of all, they want to stay healthy and have a healthy baby, stay fit but not damage the child. And then it's also evolving, once they've had the kids, into mum and baby type sessions. Now, suddenly, that's a really strong niche, but it's really interesting with niche, and this is something I definitely take people through. You've got to make sure your niche is viable. So, for example, you could be, I don't know, your niche might be guys and women who want to compete, bodybuilding thing, or it might be, it could be schools, or it could, it could be teenagers, or it could be, I don't know, guys over 50 who are worried to death about dying, whatever it is. But it's really important then to take it through a viability test. Is that niche viable? And the way you do that, you think, right, okay, first of all, can you access them in groups? So could you get a group of those people together, either online or in a room next week? And so just simple things like, as a coach, for example, I did this exercise myself, and I'm taking a chunk of my business online. And I'd initially thought I was going to work with women lawyers who wanted to be made partner. And I thought, yeah, great little niche. They're absolutely motivated to do it. They've definitely got the money to do it, whatever. But it fell down because I can't access them. I'd have to go through separately to every single law firm. They don't have Facebook groups for how to be made partner. So that fell down. So that niche, whilst it's a lovely one, it's not viable. And I work with a lot of personal trainers who have they might think of a great idea, but you can't access the people. And if you can't access the people, you end up doing one-to-ones. One-to-ones is a very slow way to make money. It takes a lot of time. Unless you're absolutely supersonic, you can't charge completely massive over-the-top rates. And then you end up not being able to pay the bills. So you need to figure out, can we access these people? So, schools or football clubs or, whatever clubs, you need to think, can you get hold of these people and access them? And then so that's the first thing. And then the second thing that I find a lot of personal trainers don't do this, where's your own credibility? Where are you credible? I mean, you're
So when you say that, define that for me, please, if that's okay.
Okay, yeah. Well, so for example, you would have massive credibility with anything to do in the yoga or Pilates world.
Thanks.
Well, you would, because
I'm
you're seen as
joking.
but you're seen as a real expert in that field, and you know, and that's absolutely your thing. So you definitely have credibility in those areas, and you know, other people would be, say, if you've been a professional football player, for example, you'd have credibility in the football world, I guess. Or if you'd done sort of other, I mean, my daughter went to a sports academy and she's now a skydiver.
Yeah.
And she did her 215th solo jump
I see her
yesterday.
on social media.
Yeah, pretty amazing. But she's really, really, really focusing like hell. Probably because she's got me as her mum, you know, and working out how she's going to do it. She wants to go be a pro in that
so
world.
So by being credible, you mean having an education and having experience.
Yeah.
Right.
And some of it's education, but I mean, you can have like a zillion qualifications in personal training. It doesn't make you effective or experienced. And if you're doing the same old stuff all the time, you're not going deep. I mean, if you expect to sort of be a pro in any field, it's about constant evolution, constant growing, constant going deeper, constant learning, really adding value, really thinking how it's going to help. And so that credibility, you know, it's sort of, I get people to think through what's their world. You know, I mean, I'm credible, for example, with women, with single mums, I'd be credible, but that wouldn't be a useful market for me because they usually haven't got any money, you know. So, you know, I'd be credible in the corporate world because I've worked there. You know, and I understand the world. I get that. So you think, where are you credible? Where works? And I found that most personal trainers don't think that through. They just think I'm a personal trainer, and they're thinking when they're marketing that it's scattergun marketing, targeting at everyone from a teenager to a pregnant woman to a professional sports person, and where's it going to land? You know, so if they haven't thought through where their real credibility is, it stops them dead right at the beginning, and then you end up very depressed. And
I think particularly as well from jumping over that little line where you're a personal trainer to being a facilities manager or like owning your own business. They're two very different things, and they're very entirely different. They operate differently, and you have to be entirely different person to be able to do that. You're not like teaching people anymore. You're now like running a business.
Totally.
So, yeah.
Different skill sets. And that's what comes part of knowing what you're good at, because, you know, with the best will in the world, any freelancer will probably spend less than half the time actually doing the stuff that they love. The rest of the time, they're actually getting business in. They're sending invoices. They're, you know, making sure there's a pipeline of business all the way through. They may be doing presentations. They're doing podcasts. They're doing, you know, whatever it is they do marketing. And not everybody's good at all that. And often, especially if you're a personal trainer, you want to be out there, you want to be doing, you're active, and actually doing the behind-the-scenes stuff, which is absolutely essential, like collecting money, making sure people pay you, putting together packages that work for those particular target market. It's a different skill set, and that's when you know, you can't be great at everything, but you've got to recognise that this stuff needs to be done. And I think in 25 years, there's probably very few days where I haven't done something actively and proactively to bring in some business. And I think that's probably why I've survived as a coach for that length of time, and why so many people don't make money, because I work with far too many people who do the training, be it as a coach, personal trainer, whatever. They get their nice business cards made, maybe a Facebook page, and then they sit back and wait for the clients to pour in. And then they get really fed up, you know, when it doesn't happen. And then your self-esteem goes down, you know, because you think, God, I must be really useless. And yet there's just a disconnect between what they're offering and their target market. And they haven't, and just thinking that through, you get more of a connect. And once you get the connect, once you know who your target market is and you know they rate you, you know you've got credibility with them, and you know they've got money, and you know they're willing to spend as well, because not everybody is. And so it's funny, personal trainers will often think it's about them and what they can do. Actually, for me as a coach, personal trainers, it's not about us at all. It's about what we enable. So people don't say, oh, I need a personal trainer. They probably think, well, for example, the reason I met Keith was because I did sessions with him, which were amazing. I was it was coming to the end of my hands-on parenting, and I was climbing Kilimanjaro, and I wanted to get fit for Kili. So I was then thinking, right, that's what I wanted. I wanted to be fit for Kili. And it was celebrating my 60th birthday. I wanted to be fit there. And it was, and then I was looking around, and none of the other trainers around seemed to, I don't know, offer anything different. And his sessions were great. I was fitter there than I've ever been. But it was great. And so I wasn't thinking, I must find Keith or I must find whatever. I was thinking, I need to get fit for Kili. Or, you know, you're thinking, right, I need to stay fit. I mean, I'm planning on being a kick-ass 95-year-old. So, you know, looking for a
high five
long
to
term.
that. Me too.
Yeah, no, it's great. But looking for that. Tap into your target market and what they're looking for, and then offer things that will help them achieve that. And then really what you can do is irrelevant until you're working with somebody. But it's relevant for credibility. But when you're working, if you're any good and you're constantly building, you build this amazing toolbox of things you can use. Techniques, ideas. You know, a particular thing, I'm using Keith as an example here because what I like particularly is how it's scalable. And I've done lots of sessions with like supersonically fit people. I mean, amazing. But I've still had an amazing workout at my level, and they've had a great workout at their level. And it's just that, but that's a skill, and not everyone can do that.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges that PTs have when they start off is they're trying to make money so that by the end of the month they can cover their bills.
Sure.
So it's difficult to isolate a specific target market at the start when all you need, like anybody is your market. You know, anybody that's willing to pay is what you'll take on at the beginning. And then you sort of get stuck in a cycle of
low fees.
Yeah, but the time you spend, say, with sessions hour after hour, or hour, then half an hour, then another hour, then a half an hour, then an hour, then 2 hours, it's difficult to work on yourself. It's difficult to grow your business if you're working for yourself, or it's difficult to isolate, to educate yourself down a particular pathway so you can be better then at focusing on your niche. So it's very tough for PTs at the start when they're trying to isolate what is my target market? Well, right now I can't afford to say no to this person because I need money by the end of the month. I think it's a tough one for PTs to really, you got to get that balancing act. There's a difference between, I don't know where this comes from, but there's a maker's schedule and there's a manager's schedule. And the manager's schedule is the type of person who's working by appointment, hour after hour after hour, meeting, phone call, job done, next bit, meeting, phone call, whatever it is, appointment. So that's kind of the PT world. You're working by the clock, hour, maybe a bit of time for lunch, a bit of time to train, mornings, late nights in the gym. And then there's the maker's schedule, which are kind of like your computer programmers or your authors or your music producers that are just... They get it, they take a while to get into the flow. They build, they create the thing they're trying to create. And then anything that comes in to disturbs them throws them off. And then they have to take a while, they have to start again and go back into the flow. So what I found when we were making that transition from just being an employee of a gym as a staff member, and all I was doing was sessions. It was just hour. I didn't need to worry about anything else. There was a funnel coming through to me from different places. Now I'm suddenly in the industry by myself. Now I have to get the manager's schedule down. I got to pack people in, but then I need 3 hours to do what might be half an hour of productive work because I'm not good at it. I don't know what it is. I don't know accounting. Okay, I'm looking at a laptop for an hour before I've pressed the keyboard, or researching something to do with, I don't know, business plan. What does this mean? Okay, I'm going to have to research that. Watching a YouTube video. I mean, it sounds silly, but that's like that, trying to get that balance between the appointment-based earnings and then, right, how do I leave enough time in the day to create an environment that I can manage myself out of? But then I have to go back into the trenches again and go and train people again. That was the tough battle. That was where we had to get quite smart with our scheduling. And we were fortunate enough that we sort of managed a way to do it. But when the PTs come into the freelance industry and they are straight in, boom, right, I need clients. How would you what's the best way for a brand new person in your mind who's still trying to find their niche to find it and to work it out?
Well, and definitely sympathise with that, but it's same with every freelancer as well. It's you really do have to block off time to do some stuff. I read something on the internet a while ago which said most people in their free time spend 90% of their time being passively entertained and 10% of your time learning stuff. Whereas if someone is really serious about a business, I mean, whilst I get it, if you really are going to go into a business and you're just going to get caught in this little treadmill, you can't then whinge later on that things haven't moved on, because you're going to get caught in that trap. You won't earn money, and that's where most people are. You've got to step aside and think, you know, even if it's like 15 minutes a day, I need to be doing some thinking, or I need to do something, you know, to build up. It's just that recognition. You're running a business. It really is running a business, and anyone who goes into it thinking it's
a hobby. You mentioned that before.
A hobby.
Not
Or
using that word.
Or like an employee. You said the difference. People split in this world. You've either got an employee mentality or an entrepreneurial mentality. And the employee mentality, you sit back.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
Yeah, you sit back and you wait. You know, basically the business is going to come. Like, you know, when you were at Fast or wherever it was, you were just doing a job and the clients just came in and all you did was deliver. So that's great. Loads of people, the lawyers I work with, lawyers just deliver, but to be made partner, they need to step up and do something different. You can't complain that it's not going to happen unless you actively take steps to do something different. So the entrepreneurial mentality is thinking, what else? Where else? Let's try. The whole concept, and this is a good one for any personal trainer really, to try and shift in your head the one-to-one thing, shift the one-to-one to one-to-many. Because you've got so many hours in a day. If you're going to do one-to-one classes, however many one-to-one sessions in a day, you know, if you do 2 group classes instead, you'll instantly earn different money. But it's, if you don't take time to think, well, quite frankly, you don't deserve to be an entrepreneur, and you're not an entrepreneur. If you're just busy with stuff all day, you know, stop whinging. It's a business.
How direct that is. It's so true.
It is. Stop whinging. You know, you're in it. It's a business. You want to be successful. It's not going to sit and happen. You know, and it's, you know, you've got to do something different. So, I mean, I've got a very visual office. I work from home, and I've got reminders like that all over the place. And it's, you know, it's just get on with it. Cut the crap. You know, it's sort of like figure out what you want. It's no one else is going to give it to you, and it's amazing how you suddenly start to get really lucky once you do your thinking on, you know, what it's like. The really bad thing as well, if people don't think, just do, what it does is drives the prices down in the market, and what it does is devalues the whole personal training world.
What do you mean by that?
Well, people they're just doing the same old thing all the time. It's just, same, nothing new, nothing different, nothing unusual, no thought, no thinking. And then because people are desperate, they offer lower rates. So basically, unless you really stand out from the crowd, those lower rates are going to go down.
Right.
I see that with coaching all the time.
Yeah.
Coaches who are so desperate, they say, look, I'll coach you for free, you know, or I'll, you know, whatever. And actually they don't realise, A, that's going to damage their own self-esteem, because with the best will in the world, you're thinking, am I really not good enough? You know, and so many people are good enough, but if you're running a business, you're running a business.
Yeah.
So it's called, technical term for it called growing up. Yeah.
Growing up.
I like that. Yeah. So, Tricia, I see this little chart that you have on the floor here. I'm so intrigued. Can you go into what's on there?
Well, yeah. Well, it's funny because when I work with people, so many people have a million things in their head. And when you're worried about stuff, it all, you know, goes around, the stuff that wakes you up in the middle of the night. I can't pay the rent. I can't do this. Am I good enough? You know, oh my gosh, I'll have to go home, whatever. I just think there's nothing like making something visible. I'm a writer as well. And there's nothing like putting things down in black and white.
Yeah, I feel that too. Like you have to write it down and put it to paper.
Yeah. So I get people to map out what's going on. Let's look at let's look at your strengths. Let's look at where you're credible. Let's get it. I've got a flip chart in my office, and I live in Ras Al Khaimah these days, overlooking the beach. Got a great balcony, and we just sit on the balcony, mapping out their dreams and whatever. But once you start to see it, you see where the bottlenecks are. You know, for example, there might be somebody who realises, wow, I'm really not good at the business development, you know, and actually I'm not interested in the business development. So in which case, then you start to think, okay, how can you do, I mean, I work with a lot of personal trainers who do barter system. It's a great product to be able to barter. You know, maybe you find a friendly person who does like doing business development and deal with them. I mean, I do that. I just did a deal last week with a woman who makes these amazing candles. So she paid me part in candles. Doesn't pay the rent, but it's nice. But I would buy them anyway. And, you know, I've got energy healers I work with. You know, we trade sessions or whatever. I've had memberships of country clubs in the past through trading sessions. But again, it's, as long as it's useful. So personal trainers can, you know, think a little bit differently. But once you start to map out stuff, you start to see where it's real.
So what would you be mapping out exactly if you were just about to step into doing this whole process of starting a business? What would be the first things that you would put to paper?
Well, we'd almost do a mind map on them, really, and look at, you know, their strengths, what they're great at, where they're strong. Definitely look at, and that includes the business things, not just the personal training thing. We look at the whole credibility, who they're credible with, and that's partly background, training, whatever, but it's their experience, it's their interests, it's, you know, the connect. So we'd map all that out. We'd then I'd make them do a viability test and say, can you access these people? You know,
can you define viability? Does that just mean that can you access them, or do those people have money, or what else does
it's
it
both.
mean?
Literally, I mean, I do it in a very simple way. You literally got a chart and you got 5 columns, and down the left it sort of says things. You write down the different groups that you think you're going to be credible with. So somebody might say, right, okay, I don't know, people in their 20s, or, you know, teenagers, or whatever, different groups, and then, or business people, or whatever. And then you first of all think, right, okay, are these people, just in a column, just on a, you know, a tick basis or a score on 10 or whatever, say, can you access these people in groups easily right now? And, you know, and so some will be dead easy to access, because some, you know, there's amazing Facebook groups around, and Facebook groups are a great way to access a whole group of people with a common interest. So that's always a useful start point. And also that's a good thing for personal trainers to start their own Facebook group for a very specific purpose once they've decided on their niche. Very clear, because you attract people, whatever. So it could be that. So the credibility thing, first of all, can you access them? B, are you credible with them? I was working with a coach recently who said, I'm going to focus on the corporates. And I said, have you ever worked in corporate? And she said, well, no, but that's where the money is. And I thought she'd have zero credibility, you know, so what the heck's the point, you know? So can you access them? Are they credible? And then are they eager to evolve and grow? Do they want to get fit, stay fit, whatever? Because not everyone does. And then the fourth one is, are they willing to invest? Because if they're not, a lot of clients fall down on that. You know, for example, if you were looking at teenagers, for example, it's not teenagers who are paying, it's parents.
Yeah.
So how do you access them? So it makes you think through the viability. So you think through that, and then you think, right, okay, if say you end up with this clear idea, I'll use that example of pregnant women, for example, whatever. So you've got your niche, you then start to think, what are they worried about? And then you start to build products or programs or whatever that helps them solve that problem. And then it's and with a very, very, very clear message. You know, so I don't know what the message would be there. Keep your baby safe and stay fit as hell, or whatever it is, you know. So you've got your products that help them do that, or your programs, or your schedule. And basically then you go into your marketing, because you're giving a very specific message to a very specific group of people. And, you know, so anything that hits the spot and helps them through, they'll tune into. Anything that doesn't, they'll tune out of. They'll just think, oh yeah, another personal trainer. So you've got to get that. You've got to do your thinking first, and that's what we map out on the flip chart. And then, because that then leads, right, what's the message? What are the programs, or what are you offering these people? What's the strategy? And then how do you access them? Could be Facebook groups. If you're a professional, you need to have a LinkedIn profile, because a lot of personal trainers don't, and that's a way of being a thought leader in the business world. And so it's really great. So it could be Facebook, could be LinkedIn, could have a website, but you don't want a website just as an online brochure.
Yeah.
It wants to be a shop, really. It's a selling tool. You know, and with a very specific message, and you give people offers and really interesting things to help them solve their problem. Remember, it's not about you, it's about what you enable people to do.
Yeah, when we were starting off, I remember one of the things that PTs sort of have an idea about is getting to corporate wellness.
Yeah.
Because corporations have money, and this
Yeah.
is a good way to kind of tap into a thing. But I know my gut reaction whenever I hear somebody mention corporate wellness amongst our companies, we have no access to those people.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
and that it straight away falls down on that. We've been doing it now 3 years, been in this part of the world industry for 5 years, and only now I would say, would we have legitimate access that's credible, where if we could have a conversation with someone in a position of decision making that could lead to something corporate. But if we had been spending 3 years sending emails trying to access these people, we would have gone crazy. And then the one that really kind of took my previous employer, kind of really ended almost the business, was the idea that we'd come over 5 years ago to work with athletes and pro this and professional basketballers and this. And when we came over, there was no access to them. And they, like you said, did they have money? They didn't really have the money because the part of their contract was, it wasn't a lucrative contract. It was covering their bare minimum. They didn't have enough for extra things, So we struggled, and that whole business model had to change based around the idea just wasn't viable. That's a very important one. When you say it like that, it makes it very clear and defined.
It does, and that's why you asked about the flip chart. That's what we do. You get things clear. Once you get the clear and defined, and that viability test is fantastic because it really just makes you think straight away, whoa, either great, I can access them, or whoa, I can't, or the people I'm targeting, actually they're not the decision makers or the people who pay. So how the heck do you access, So it really makes you think through your strategy.
You then have to get a bit savvy, don't you?
You do, definitely.
There'll be some straightforward ways that everybody's tried.
Yeah.
Like we were talking, I actually had a conversation yesterday about the these influencers, this slight tangent, but these influencers around the world who have millions of followers are harassing hotels in the Maldives because they want to go and take photos and, I'll promote your thing to my million. And these hotels are like, stop contacting us.
Yes.
This is not the way to do it.
Yeah, irritating people is never, irritating potential clients or people who give you something is not the way to go,
Yes, you have to get savvy and you have to get, street smart with that, yeah.
So tell me, what happens after you map everything out? What do you do after that? So you have a clear direction, you understand your niche, where do you go from there?
Well, then it's about how do you access them? And it's really about building up sort of what you're doing with these podcasts and things like that. You're making connections with those people you're trying to connect, and you're being seen as a really, really credible resource, and you're starting to build yourself up as the expert for those people to help them solve that thing. And so that's when you look at, right, what would work. So these podcasts are a classic example. You're building up a real body of just great information, and great free content for people. Now that's going to help with potential clients. So it depends on, who you're targeting. But, if it's corporate, then how do you get in there? How can you target them? You then start to look at, okay, how do you do it with social media? You then maybe start to do more talks. If you're looking for local market, talks is an incredibly good way of getting that expertise across, because people who haven't got the depth, it shows very clearly if they're talking about something. If you really know your stuff, so either of you two would be so massively credible giving a talk about your area, whatever. And so it's about thinking, how can you get groups of people together? How can you bring them sort of together? That's, if I think how I get my business, keynote talks is a really easy way to bring in clients for me. LinkedIn, people will always check LinkedIn. They will look for the experts. Most personal trainers don't have a LinkedIn profile because they don't think of themselves as a business person. So they don't think they need a profile. Whereas, so the few people who have got that profile will stand out automatically. So, and if you start to use it very carefully, get these key messages really, really, really consistent, and keep adding more and more value, thinking, right, is it online or offline? If it's face-to-face, how are you accessing? What are you doing? What are you offering? And really start to build up a profile of things that you're offering that particular target market. And it builds up. But it's getting the balance, like you said. I mean, there are only so many hours in a day. So I've got one saying on my notice board is, every single day, do something today that your future self will thank you for. Mm-hmm. And that is hugely important. That's the stuff. Is it urgent today? Nah, not really. Actually, it'd be a lot easier if we were on the beach right now or something. But actually, taking the time to do that, something that will really make a difference, that's what makes you stand out.
I think as well, something that I find really valuable. I think it's from Tony Robinson's, or I heard it somewhere, is like action. So you have an idea, but actually do it. And I've noticed with myself in the evenings, if I can't get to sleep, I have to get up and do everything that's in my head and just get it done. And then I'm like, oh, okay, fine, I can chill, I can go to sleep. But it's that every time you have an idea, just like actioning it. I find it really useful to get things moving and to get the ball rolling, and I think, it's useful.
I also think that's important, though, to get it off your to-do list as well, because right now in my life I have 5 big things to do, but come next week there's going to be another 5. So I don't want the end of next week to come and there be 10. So I don't know what those second 5 are, but I'm going to get the first 5 done now, because there's going to be new stuff popping up. That's how I look at it. Like, I wouldn't have a problem sleeping, but I would, as soon as I wake up the next day, it's like, right, I need to get going. I need to do A, B, and C, because then I need to get around to the other thing, because tomorrow there's going to be something else, and I want to be able to, when that comes, I want to be able to just do it and get it off my list. So it's not even getting on my to-do list. It's like, as soon as it comes in, it's done. It doesn't go at at number 4 or number 5. It's just, right, okay, what's next? For me, that's a much keeps my head clear.
Yeah, and they were 2 great examples, actually, of knowing yourself and knowing what you need to do to stay sane and to not let it become overwhelming, because I think I work with an awful lot of people and life is overwhelming.
It can be, yeah.
Yeah, and they haven't found a way to cut through that and make sure it works. But it's about getting the balance all the time. It's about, making sure, is this moving in the right direction? And it's in the early days, you haven't got money to have stuff, because people over the years have said to me, I don't know how you do it all. And I say, well, that's because I don't. I do the stuff that only I can do. And I'm very clear about that. So I've always had, for about 17 years, I've had a great PA who does day-to-day stuff that has to be done, but that doesn't need to be done by me. Now, it's great when you get to that stage, and it's in some ways it's false economy to think you don't need support in every area, because you can't do everything. And that's where in the early days it really helps to trade. If you've got no money, and you say, for example, if you've got no money and you've worked out your niche, you know where you're going, but you're really rubbish at, I don't know, Facebook groups or rubbish at something else, find someone who likes doing that and is good at that and barter.
Yeah.
So it doesn't always need to be money changing hands, but do the stuff that only you can do. If you spend your time doing stuff that anyone can do, quite frankly, then you won't evolve, you won't grow. But also know yourself, know what you need to do. I always like to knock off a couple of quick things. I'm a morning person. So a couple of quick things in the morning makes me feel clever, as though I can do it, and then I can get into the bigger. What? Oh, just, something that takes 5 minutes. I have this thing, if it takes less than 5 minutes, just do it.
Yeah.
Knock it off the list,
Yeah, that's the same with me. I would even say, don't let it go on the list.
Yeah.
If I do this now, will I remember it? I don't have to put it on the list to remember to do it later. This doesn't go on the list. Let me just do it now.
And I use a kitchen timer all the time. It's always on my desk, and I'll set it for an hour. I say, right, for the next hour, I'm just going to knock off these emails, and then I'm going to stop and do something else. And that's actually quite good as well.
One thing I know, my phone, a couple of weeks ago, for whatever reason, the Instagram videos stopped auto-playing.
Oh.
And they wouldn't play. And I realised I've probably gained about half an hour of my day back, because I'm not spending...
He's addicted,
well,
let's be honest.
No, well, I wouldn't be as addicted... I'm on it, but I wouldn't be as addicted as, it's not my only source of entertainment, but...
It's an addiction.
When it stopped playing, I was like, okay, good, I don't need to watch this video. Like, I'm glad this is... Something in the world is stopping me watching these videos, which is fine. I'm not worried, because I would have gone 60 seconds there and realised that was pretty pointless. Like that, I just saw somebody falling over 60 seconds in. And then I probably would watch 10 of those maybe, and then 20. By the end of the day, I've watched 30. That's half an hour.
And then half an hour a day. It doesn't sound much. That's 3.5 hours a week.
It's a lot of time.
And then 7 hours. That's 14 hours. That's 2 whole extra days a month.
Yeah, I think just segueing from your little Instagram addiction, like time management is a big thing too. I find something that's very admirable about how you work, Tricia, is that you're very organized. Yeah. Very, very organized, and you seem to manage your time really well. What advice could you give to people as to how they can do that?
Well, for me, that's about priorities. I mean, I laugh sometimes. I think I'm organised because I want to spend loads of time doing stuff like, I don't know, walking on the beach or spending time with friends. And I'm a huge traveller, and I have, I don't know, a lot of time in the year off. which you can do, but that's not. But then I work like buggery when I'm working. I'm super organised in terms of how I use my time. I write stuff down. I'm clear where I'm going, and I block off holidays first, more than anything
that's
else.
important.
Yeah. I definitely have breaks, and I'm not particularly addicted on things like Instagram or Facebook.
Netflix.
I can get sucked in sometimes, but it's sort of. But I do try very much to. Think is this going to help? Yeah, I can sit and watch Netflix all day, but I mean, actually, really.
By the end of the day, those things are on your to-do list now. You still haven't done them.
Well, that's right, and actually, quite frankly, that's what most of the people in the world do.
Yeah.
And that's why they're not successful.
Yeah,
and
wasting their time a lot of the time.
Yeah, and it's really about if you really want to do this and really want to sort of make a success of it, then figure out what that looks like for you, and then really start to do the stuff that makes it. And that's a model I use actually with people. Get real on where you're starting from, because not everybody is. Most people don't think about themselves, what they're good at, what they're not, where the gaps are. Then what's the dream? So many of them will be vague. You just, I want to make a lot of money. I think, well, okay, what's a lot of money? What does that mean? And, where does that fit? Whatever. Because if you want to be, I don't know, a millionaire in the next 2 years, that's very different from a millionaire in the next 40. It's different actions in the day to get there, whatever. So that's point A is where you are, point B is where you want to get to. And if you're clear on those two, it's fairly straightforward to know what you need to do. And then it's just a question of time, thinking, well, okay, I can't do it all, so who else can do some of this for me? Or what are the bits that are great? But I cannot stress enough about get your niche right.
Yeah. So the people then, we spoke, people who have their niche and they really know what they want. So people who have their niche, they know their skill set, they know what they're good at. And then people who really know what they want, what other characteristics do you see in successful people that you that you can identify and that you'd advise other people to try and work on?
I think they're quite humble, actually, because they realise they haven't got it cracked. I don't usually find very arrogant people who are successful. So it's people who sort of know that they've got lots to learn, and they'll roll the sleeves up and do it, and recognise they need to do the work. So I definitely see that. Any different style of people can be successful. They really can. But I mean, people who really, it's not about them. There's something about them. When it's all about me, and guess what? Me, and the big I am, and I'm this, and I'm that, and I deserve, and this whole entitlement thing that I see all around is just
that drives
mind-blowing.
Me mental. Yeah.
Does my head in.
What would an example of that be?
They expect the world, expect everything to happen without doing anything for it. And I think it's my generation of parents who've often done that with kids, that, we've made things too easy sometimes for kids and they haven't had to work for it. And, and so you don't get things for nothing. And I think it's really important to say, if that's what you want, then what do you need to be doing, working for it? So I suppose, I'd never see people entitled or successful. They're just surprised, that the world hasn't landed at their feet.
So the little chart, what else is on there?
What else? Let's see.
So you got be successful on purpose, yeah?
Yeah, well, that's my tagline.
That's your motto.
Yeah, thinking about the products or programs is always interesting, because once you've thought, okay, you've got this particular target, and then thinking through that personal training isn't a one-off thing, or it's a process. It's a process, it's an evolution, and there's a movement and there's a shift. So be it, sort of yoga, Pilates or whatever, it's not just come and do one session. It's a whole, what are you trying to do? Where does this fit in your life? How can you help? And then so that you really get that message across that I'm on your side. These are ways, you're selling a strategy to help them get where they want to be. And because you've got such great toolkits, you two in particular, you can help in completely different ways, and you can really surprise clients in a good way, when you're working with them, because that's where the experience shows, and that's where it just deepens and deepens and deepens.
Cool. So if people want to get in touch with you, where could they find you online? You've got a LinkedIn page. Yeah,
LinkedIn is probably the best place. And so Tricia Evans Dubai. And
how would you advise people use their LinkedIn? 'Cause LinkedIn is a different platform than the fitness industry is comfortable with. It's easy to go on Instagram. It's easy to go on Facebook. Some people have cracked YouTube. I wonder, do people not feature on LinkedIn? Is it they don't have the time to do everything, or it seems like it's a difficult platform to crack? For me, let's put it this way. For me personally, I would find LinkedIn is the most difficult one to sort of get my teeth into and see how I can bend this to my benefit.
Well, it depends on your niche, and it depends if they use LinkedIn as well. But for example, you said before about the corporate side. LinkedIn's a bit like Facebook. It's movable. LinkedIn's got a bigger search engine than Google. It's massive. What's really interesting, so say for example, if you know how LinkedIn works, you're my first connections on all of them. Now, I've got loads of connections, probably about 4,500. But say if you were to post something on LinkedIn on corporate wellness, just some interesting, relevant thing that would be of interest to the people that you'd like to get in touch with. And you'd post that. Now, that would go up. Now, that would go out to all your contacts, and it would go out to all your contacts. So say if you've got, 500 contacts yourself, it would go out to all your contacts, plus I'm one of your contacts, and it'd go out to my 4,500 contacts. Now, it doesn't mean they'd all be looking, and they'd all see it, but the scale of what you're offering is really, it's massive, it's immense, it really is great like that. And then also, for example, you could have a look at my contacts and go through, and you might see a few really interesting clients I've got and think, oh, I'd love, maybe Trish knows them, maybe can you introduce me? So it's a really, you can use it in that way to create a really professional, it's a professional business platform.
Yeah.
It's about getting your professional brand online, and corporate wellness, it lends itself to that. But not just as a generic thing, very specific, make things specific.
So would you advise kind of posting articles, posting kind of blog posts?
Yeah. Anything that's relevant to that target audience and keep it really consistent. It's not relevant for everybody, but if you want to be seen as a bit of a mover and shaker and a thought leader and as a pro in your field, I think you can't beat it. And it's just one aspect of the whole, whatever's relevant to your particular target.
Yeah, cool.
I mean, someone like what's his name, Joe Wicks, he's done pretty well out of Instagram, hasn't he? Yeah,
I think
very clever.
Or YouTube. No, was it
YouTube as well.
Yeah.
Some people just crack it. They have a little style.